Welcome to another season of Fantasy Within a Fantasy. I am your commissioner, Austin Artinger, and today we are going to charge into the new rules and changes to this year's league. Yes, indeed, it is that time again, and I'm so excited to be in front of you guys to discuss all of the modifications that we're going to be making to the league this year. Obviously, COVID-19 has affected us all in different ways this year, completely unexpected. And I want to apologize because for the majority of the season, I didn't think that we would have an NFL season. So I have been lackadaisical in terms of planning, what changes we were going to make and all those sorts of things. But I have developed 8 different contingency plans that we're going to get into, along with, every year we usually make changes to this league. So I'm excited to share some of those things with you guys, and let's talk about it. All right, so let's get into it. The plan this year is to keep everybody engaged, no matter where we are in the season, no matter how the COVID-19 outlook looks. If by week 4 it looks like the season's not going to make it past 7 weeks. The way I've structured everything is so that nobody gives up. We always have something to fight for. We're always going to be engaged at every week of the season, and it should be a lot of fun. Thanks to last year's snafu, we have found a better way of collecting the money. Previous years, we would have gone through Yahoo and just paid Yahoo directly. And while it is convenient in some instances, what is very annoying about it is for any of the winners at the end of the season, that money is kept and it is trapped for probably like 10 to 14 days or so after the season ends, and everyone's just left waiting. Another thing to keep in mind is with all of the contingency plans that I'm about to reveal to all of you, there's no way for Yahoo to be able to distribute the money the way I have devised, depending on if the season ends early. Pretty sure it would just be all or nothing. You either would win the money as per usual, or all the money would be returned. So the way we're going to do it is you guys are going to pay me directly this year. I could take Apple Pay, Zelle, or Venmo. Pretty sure that should be easy enough for all of you. I prefer Apple Pay by far, but I can do the other ones. Anyways, you guys will send me the money, and I'm going to hold that money all season long, and then can immediately distribute that back out to whoever the winners are whenever the season does end. Now, I have 2 deadlines in place. Obviously, the pandemic, as I mentioned earlier, has affected everyone in different ways, so I know finances can be a little strict or a little tough right now for some of us. And I haven't given this is pretty short notice, right? So deadline number 1 would be the same deadline as per every year, September 10th, which is this year's NFL kickoff game. I would love if you have, the money and all that, just send it to me by then. If it's going to maybe be a little bit more difficult to immediately send that money out, I totally understand, and I trust you guys, as I'm sure you guys trust me. So I have a second deadline in place, and that'll be October 22nd, which is week 7. If you're unable to pay me by the first deadline, just let me know by the first deadline, and then, I'm going to hold you to that second deadline. But yeah, just communication is key. Just fill me in on, how things are, and I'll make it work. So let's move on to the COVID-19 contingency plans. The other day, I developed 8 plans designed for maximum engagement and had 2 of our peers, Andrew and Zarian, review those. And they gave me some feedback, and I made changes to go along with the feedback that they gave. So let's start with Plan A. Everything goes according to plan. This is just basically the regular plan. If the season plays out the entire season, these are going to be the same numbers as we saw last year. First place would win $200, second place winning $90, third place getting their money back with $30, and then the person with the best regular season record would get $20, and the person with the most points at the conclusion of the regular season would also receive $20. You can be both like first place and most points and best record. So you have a maximum potential winning of $240 this season. So there's Plan B. This is a scenario where we do not get through the championship game, but we have completed the rest of the season. So all weeks up to the completion of week 15, but no week 16. would adjust some things a little bit. The differences here, first and second still have the same overall $290 prize pool, but it's distributed differently, right? Because we wouldn't know who the true winner would be, but rather than splitting it, I do still want a winner to be named. Like at whatever point of the season it is, we will have a winner. So that will be whoever scores the most points in week 15 of first or second. That is determines who the winner is. So they would win $170. Second place getting $120. So still a bump from that 90 due to us not being able to play the championship game. Third and fourth place. At this point, we would know who would be fighting in the third place game, but we wouldn't know who that would be. So the person with the most points between third and fourth at the conclusion of week 15, person comes in third, gets $20. Fourth place gets $10. Now we move on to Plan C. If we are able to complete week 14, which would be the first round of playoffs, this is how this plan would look. First and second would be on a bye week, so they would not have actually been able to play. They would have been locked in, and due to their regular season status, we would see them win the most here, $110 and $85 coming in second. Third and fourth place would receive the biggest boost here, and that is because they have defeated fifth and sixth place. With defeating that, they would have moved on, and they do have a chance at the championship, but without us able to play out week 15 and 16, we wouldn't know ultimately who that is. The determining factor between third and fourth would be whoever scored the most points in week 14 specifically. Third place would get 70, fourth place would get 55. Moving on to Plan D. This is if we reach the playoffs. So the completion of week 12 or week 13, we're right there at playoffs, but we're unable to play any playoff games. The top 6 teams that made the playoffs would all receive money, and it would all go off of how the regular season records and all that go. However, Yahoo sorts it, would be record and points considered. First place would receive 100, second, so on and so forth. I don't need to read all of it for you guys. You can pause at any time if you need a little bit more time on the slide. Best record and most points throughout all of these has remained the same. Next is Plan E. Now this would be if we complete week 8, 9, 10, or 11, but do not reach week 12 and so on and so forth. In this scenario, being that we have a little bit less information, but still a good feel for who the good teams are this season, 9 of the 12 people will win money of some sort back. So 10th, 11th, and 12th, we would know by that point in the season, they're likely the 3 worst teams in the league. They would not receive any money back. Starting at 9th, you'd receive $15, 8th with 20, 7th with 25, so not quite all of your money back. Starting with 6th place at the beginning of playoffs, you would start to win all your money back. And then it would just go up in $5 increments, except for the person who is in first. They would get a little bit of a bump and come in with $70 as the first place winner. Another thing to point out here, most points remains the same with a $20 prize. However, with records kind of fluctuating, especially around that area of the season. A little less accuracy in terms of like maybe who the best team was. I think most points is more indicative of that, but that can be argued. Anyways, best record will get a $10 reward for whomever has the best record at the conclusion of whichever week within 8 to 11 that this ends. On to Plan F. This would be if we get through and complete week 5, 6, or 7, but do not get past week 8. In this scenario, everyone wins money back to some degree. Not all of their money back. A little bit of a scale here. So, 12th place would win $10, 11th place would win $15, and then 7th through 10th would win $20 of their $30 back. Those who come in 4th, 5th, and 6th would get their money back at $30. And then 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, you'd be looking at $60, $50, and $40 as the winnings. Another thing to point out, there is no longer a reward for best record at this point in the season, since it is too early in the season to really get a good feel for truly who has that best record. There likely would be a lot of ties at this point in the season. If there are ties, points will be the tiebreaker. That is how Yahoo scores it in our league. There is still a reward for whoever has the most points, but it is no longer a $20 reward. It moves down to $15. Second to last, we have Plan G. This would be if we complete week 3 or week 4, but do not reach week 5 and beyond. In this scenario, we do still have a winner. First place would take home a prize of $40, with second through 10th place receiving their $30 back. 11th and 12th, being that you are the 2 worst teams in the league at this point, you would receive $20 of your $30 back. Cutting $10 from 11th and 12th would allow for our winner to receive a slight bump up to $40, and also the person with the most points, who in this case is likely the winner, they would also receive $10. So you have a maximum opportunity of $50 here with Plan G. Next is Plan H, and this is the plan if all hell breaks loose. If we fail to complete week 3, meaning we only complete week 1 or week 2, in this scenario, everybody gets their money back. There is no best record or most points, anything like that. Everyone just gets their money back. So those are the 8 plans regarding how payouts will be structured depending on where we are in the season and when it ends. Hopefully, we won't have to use any of these plans except for Plan A, and everything goes as per usual. Just like any other year, we do have some additional changes to spice things up and make things fun. The only COVID-related one this year is we have increased the number of injured reserve spots from 1 to 5. Now, I will not be policing how you use these spots. I think at this point, I've weeded out all the people who never placed injured players on the injured reserve list. But in terms of COVID, let's say all 5 of your IR spots have been taken up and a useless player like, say, Taysom Hill is now sick with COVID-19. You're going to have to cut them at this point. We already play in a league that has very large rosters, so you'll have more than enough space to make decisions and keep on picking up healthy players and stuff like that without needing to hoard, 10 players who all have COVID. Hopefully, that is not the case. I'm really excited about this next one. We do have some new kicker scoring to just go even further into our points on top of points type of league. One minor change for team defense is 4th down stops are now worth 1 point. It was previously just 0.1 points. And then also, we are going to have a draft lottery for the first time in this league. So your roster review, just to go over it, you start 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 5 flexes that can be running back, receiver, or tight end, 1 team defense, and 1 kicker. You'll have 10 bench spots on top of that for a total of 21 spots. And then you'll have 5 injured reserve spots on top of that. So the most you can roster at any one point would be 26 players. Now we have the scoring review, and feel free to pause this and look it over, especially if you've gone into any of our drafts before and never really looked at all of the scoring settings. This is a nice little table I've created that has every single point bonus or whatever. To go over the very basics: 0.25 points per carry, 1 point per reception, 1 point per first down, and then there are yardage bonuses both for total yards and also big plays individually. Defense, there's a lot of differences in our league compared to the default one. Mainly, you don't get dinged for having a defense give up a lot of yards, since that's pretty common in our offensive-driven leagues. You also get rewarded for having a very good defense. Say your defense performs a shutout, that's 15 points on top of, whatever sacks and interceptions and touchdowns that your defense scores. Kicker. So this new kicker scoring, they finally added in a yardage-based version, except Yahoo did not execute this with any type of real sense involved. where they should have just had the points per yards kick in after 30-yard field goals so that it's 3 points regardless. They didn't do that, and it's very difficult to get any of the math to work out on that. But I came up with a strategy that, while it may be a smidge confusing, it's simplistic and rewards you for having a kicker who can kick it, very far. So let's look at that real quick. And again, feel free to pause here if you want to look at, basically every single possible field goal, including record breakers all the way up to 70 yards. This is how many points they are going to be worth. So the yards per field goal, if you kick, let's say, a 37-yard field goal, your yards per field goal would be 3.7, and then for every field goal that is completed, you get 1 point for that. So if your kicker hits a 37-yarder, you would get 4.7 points. In the old system, that would have just been 3. You can see that with the old system, it's pretty boring. You get 3, 4, or 5 points. So, made it a little bit better this time around. Another thing I want to point out for PATs, I did adjust something. So with the PATs, you get 1 point for every PAT your kicker hits. If you miss a PAT, since that is such a short distance, your kicker should be penalized for that. Previously, it was only, I think, like minus 1 point or something like that. It is now minus 3 points per missed PAT. You are not banged too hard for missed field goals. If they miss a very short one, you'll lose 5 points. So 0 to 19 yards, that's -5. 20 to 29, -4. 30 to 39, -3. So on and so forth. If your kicker's attempting, like a 62-yarder before the half ends, you shouldn't really get dinged for them missing it that much. It's only -1 points after 50 yards. So that certainly was a mouthful, and if you're still a little bit confused, look at that table. It's like a PPR league, but for kickers. It's points per field goal. Whatever your yardage is, plus the 1 point for a field goal. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is a draft lottery. Yes, that's right. Being that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and I am working from home on reduced hours, while I will be starting school, I still have a little more free time than normal, so I thought it would be fun, rather than just letting the computer randomize the draft order right before the draft. I figured once all 12 teams are finalized here, I'll host a draft lottery. I'll just put out a video, maybe I'll stream it just so, you guys know that it's 100% fair and stuff like that. I draft all year long, as do probably about half of you in this league, so I'm sure we're all comfortable drafting from any position. There isn't really like a fairness factor going into, I'm trying to manipulate the draft order, anything like that. I'd probably just put a bunch of ping pong balls in like a bucket or something like that, and then pull them out on video, and we'll have a nice little order kind of revealed, and you'll be able to plan for your draft position in advance. I don't have the draft date finalized yet, but I have set a tentative date of September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific. I know we have some East Coasters in here, so it'll be 9 p.m. Eastern time for you guys. If that doesn't work for you, please reach out to me as soon as possible, and I will potentially reschedule it. We have about 2.5 weeks before the season starts, and most of us probably have a little bit more free time than we did before. I know this video was probably a little bit longer than any of you expected. I know I'm certainly a little surprised by how long it went, but just know it's because I care, and I want to be a really good commissioner for you guys, as I have been the past few years. We now have a YouTube channel for this league, so no guarantees, but maybe we'll be putting out some cool videos here as this season progresses and into the future as well. Also, now you have a video to go back and reference, so if at any point in the season you're confused in terms of like, well, wait, I thought this was supposed to be this payout at this week, we all saw the same video. We can all go back and cite it. And it's pretty much laid out. Make it really easy for me. I could just point to whatever week it is if the season ends short. And we all agreed that this was the date and time, and this is the payout structure that is according to it. So that'll do it for the 2020 Fantasy Within a Fantasy League. I'm very excited to draft pretty soon here with you guys, and let's have a good season. Thank you all for watching the video.